Hello and welcome to the Securus' Firestarter. This is Monday, February. I do this every
16.
week. 16th. There we go. Yeah, I think I could remember something along those lines. I'm Rich Mogul, and with me, as always, are Mike Rothman,
Hello.
and with less bandwidth today, and Adrian Lane,
Hello.
and with better bandwidth today. I don't know what it is. We can't get all three of us with a nice.
I think it's a Google thing. Google's just evil, I think, because
It is.
I just did my speed test and I'm getting 40 meg up, or not 40 meg, but 15, 16 meg up. So it's not that. It's Google. I'm blaming
Yeah,
Google.
Google and their evilness and their free service that we're now using.
Exactly. The nerve of them to not be able to connect the three of us with high bandwidth at any given time is just a travesty.
It is funny. I only use it. I have Google Chrome. I basically use it for this. I never use the browser. I don't use the search engine. I don't use Gmail if I can avoid it. I mean, I haven't. You have to have an account or any of those things. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. So guys, did you get your cyber on this weekend?
Cyber.
All about cyber now. Didn't you see it? Here's the setup. Obviously, the president had his big thing in Silicon Valley, and I think that was very fascinating on a couple of levels. It's been talked about in articles, so there's nothing new, nothing new here, which is A, the president going out there, B, who decided to speak and who didn't. So, Tim Cook from Apple spoke, Marissa Mayer from, Yahoo, Google, none of them had anybody, they sent lower representatives. They didn't send any of their top people. And the tension between, because I think the government has burned a lot of trust in particularly the Bay Area, and those companies, and we can talk about that more in a minute because of the NSA revelations and Snowden and wanting to put back doors. The Department of Justice is pushing hard for that. Obama seems to be favorable to mandating back doors, which is actually going to weaken the security of all of our products and those pieces. But yet we also all recognize that breaches are getting pretty bad these days. Anthem, and that's what, a third of Social Security numbers in the U.S. may have been lost or something close to that.
Like that is a realistic identifier anymore.
Yeah, it blows apart the system. Some reporter was asking me, he goes, "Hey, what can we do?" And I'm like, "Well, we can't protect these numbers. I mean, you can't rely, on a random 9-digit number as being the thing that defines your entire financial life, which is pretty much the system we're in right now. And maybe this might be the crack that breaks that. But anyway, that summit was all about getting prepping for a couple of announcements which had leaked. So one is this new cyber threat sharing center. I believe it's going to be a civilian thing, and it's going to be under DHS. It's designed for businesses and ISACs to be able to share information and IOCs and indicators of compromise and other things with the government. Maybe the government will share back. Ideally, that's supposed to be happen. But it's a recognition of the level of breaches we're dealing with today are horrible. We've got actually more pressure being put on China. I think the ambassador within the past 2 weeks basically said, guys, this has to stop. You're the only country or the only major country that's doing this for economic advantage. We steal your shit, but we don't use it and give it back to our U.S. businesses. And we actually came out explicitly and said that that's the way the laws work here in the U.S. and that supposedly the agencies comply with that. And I think they do, to be honest. And then the Obama came out with his, what's the title of this, guys? The Executive Order Improving Critical Infrastructure Cybersecurity. So what do you think? I mean, in my book,
I think China is in favor of backdoors.
We're not talking about their. Oh, never mind. Sorry. You mean
well? Hey now. No, I mean, come on. They're in everything already. So yes, backdoors are great for them because they're already in everything. So hey, provide backdoors into something. So it's just one less attack they have to do. Right? They don't have to attack a security company anymore to, go and get at the stuff that they really want. They'll just go in through the back door through the agency that they've already compromised. Listen, I mean, I think a lot of this gets back to a theme that we have been pretty consistent about, for the past 6 months. Be careful what you wish for. Right? We have been bitching for a long time about relevance. We've been bitching for a long time about being able to get access to the right people high in the organization, and now we have it. What the hell are we going to do? right? That's really the question. And when we were in our little pre-meeting, my question to these guys about the cybersecurity order and all that kind of stuff is, it's not about, hey, they did it and hey, they had a big shindig in Silicon Valley and, Tim Cook waved his hands and Marissa Meyer, smiled to the crowd. Who gives a shit about that? Right? The question is, how do we as practitioners leverage that momentum, leverage that news peg so that we can push either an enhanced or supplemented agenda within the organization. Maybe it is about information sharing, right? That, there's been some resistance in certain areas, general counsel, that, now we can push through. Right? Maybe it is something that says, all right, now I actually, as the CISO, should be getting an audience with the board every board meeting, right? Not just once a quarter, not just, maybe once a year and then every quarter with the audit committee. Maybe it is every board meeting. I don't know, right? I mean, I think that's something that every organization has to figure out. But we get very few opportunities to have such visibility. We really should at least take some time and be considerate to ensure that we're not going to squander it.
What makes you think that the CISO is going to be driving this bus? If it gains this level of attention and compromise, why is the CISO going to actually be in charge of it, and why not legal? Why isn't this thing going to get pushed out of security entirely?
The stuff has to be implemented at some point, right? So there's a bunch of policy shenanigans that we've had in place, I don't know, since the beginning of time. Right? How's that been working? So again, I just, I get back to the point that, listen, if you're a senior security professional in your organization and you're not driving the bus, go get another job. I mean, seriously, if you're not able to go and make a case internally about what this means to the organization and why you need to either do things differently or more or whatever the answer is for your organization, go find something else to do, right? Go back to managing firewalls. There's nothing wrong with that. But now is the time where, you step up, right? Now is the time where you take a leadership role, not just within your security team, within your organization, if you care. If you don't, dust off your resume because you're going to get popped and you'll be looking for a job soon enough. I mean, I don't mean to be, kind of terse and blunt about it, but, the fact of the matter is you get to certain inflection points where, the leaders are going to lead and the followers are not. And now is, I think, the gut check time to figure out if you're a security professional, whether you want to lead or not.
I think I mean, that brings up a couple of overlapping issues. One is I think that as professionals, we haven't done the best job of representing ourselves. And, I'm using the word we, but I've always tried to do my best job personally. But, anytime a breach comes out, there's we could have done it better. Anytime something happens, I just today, my inbox is full of, and this comes from obviously the marketing side, but BS from various vendors about how they could have stopped all of these breaches. I was amused by the one we got, the PR company that used overblown language. It was so bad, and I'm like, those guys are one of our clients. I emailed them, and I'm like, guys, how could you do this? And they're like, we didn't approve that. That was the PR team on, the external agency doing their own work, and it was
The former external agency?
Yeah. It was that bad. So anyway, I think that here's an issue. This is a socio-political issue at the highest levels at this point. I mean, we're talking about things that directly affect economies and are putting the fear factor and the things we've all talked about for years that were ignored now are coming to fruition. And it's not because we did anything wrong. I mean, we probably did, but it's just a risk. It's the way the psychology of risk works, in that people don't pay attention until things get to a certain level. And we're going to see we'll see what the global warming talk is like here in Phoenix now that we're at record temps and it's not going to go down again. I mean, those kinds of things. And when it's in your face, it changes how you react psychologically. And I think we've hit that level. So now the problem is we have to clean up all the messes from the years behind. But by the same token, a lot of security people have cried wolf for too long. In particular, because we've let the vendor community represent us, and they were trying to push product more than anything else. There's aspects of the researcher community as well that are good, but also bad. Things like, when APTs come out, everybody was just so big talking about how it wasn't advanced. Like guys, I'm sorry. Maybe you don't understand how to communicate these things. true or not, that some of those were advanced enough to get the job done, and you blow your credibility. Companies coming out and saying we have proof that it was an insider at Sony. When you know what, when the president gets up on stage and says, it was North Korea that hacked Sony, the truth is what he says at that point. As far as, because that's what he's been told by the intelligence agencies, right or wrong. That's what he's been told by the FBI and justice, right or wrong. And he's not going to believe you. He's going to believe them. And you just look like an ass, unless you have such overwhelming proof that that it would change the game. And even then, those agencies will then defend themselves as a bureaucracy. And reporters writing horrible articles about these things we talked about last week. So I think we've hit a level that it's what we say doesn't even matter anymore. I think for those of you who are working in your own organizations, I mean, there's a couple of things you can take away from this. One is that if you need to get the right executive attention, there is an appropriate amount of FUD. You can just go out and say, look, man, we don't want to be the next Anthem. We don't want to be the next this or that. However, if you're going to do that, you need to do it from a leadership standpoint, like Mike said, not a management standpoint. You can't come in with a big budget number and no way to show that you are actually improving security. You need to put the metrics programs in place, something we haven't talked about in a long time. You need to put a roadmap in place, because if you get that money, you get one chance. And when you screw that up because you get breached in a way, so you need to be very careful about how you communicate, how you build your plan, and how you communicate consistently that you are achieving those objectives over time. And even then, if China or North Korea targets us, we can't stop it. What we can try and do is reduce and contain it. That's a very hard conversation to have. But
you remember the movie Wall Street? You guys remember that?
Yep.
So Bud Fox, right? Bud Fox he calls Gordon Gekko's office every day for like 2 years, right? His buddies with the receptionist. He has just trying to get an audience, right? One day he comes up with Blue Star Airlines, and Gekko says, "Yeah, come in," right? All of this preamble is just Bud Fox, banging on the door every single day to try to get an audience. At some point, and now is that point, right? Gekko will meet with you. What the hell are you going to sell him? And it's like any other thing, sales process. And I know as practitioners, we tend not to think in terms of selling, but we have to sell our program. We have to sell our agenda to protect the information within the organization. And we've waited for years to get the meeting with the people who can actually make a purchasing decision, and now we got it. Right? So again, that's what I was talking about in terms of putting forward a realistic process and agenda and set of things. Rich, just exactly what you just said. FUD gets you in the door. FUD don't solve a problem, right? FUD don't make the attackers go away. FUD don't deal with North Korea. FUD don't do anything but get you in the door. And now that you're in the door, now you have to constructively have a plan for what you're going to do to move forward. What are the milestones? We we haven't talked about metrics in a while because that's basically a oil tar pit of mess to try to figure out what the hell's going on with that. But you've got to have a plan, and you have to have a program. And don't pull the card until your program is ready. Right, until you know what you're selling to these folks and you know how you're going to define success. A lot of this gets back to the stuff, and again, I wrote about in Pragmatic CSO now, what, eight years ago? Holy crap, 8 years ago, right? But all of those things are still very relevant from the standpoint of building out what's important in your organization, structuring a program around that, and then putting a plan in place to execute on that program. Again, we've got a catalyst, and everybody wants to talk about the news peg with Obama getting up and talking about cyber, but the fact is this is really a catalyst to figure out whether your program's in place or not.
You ever seen three outfielders all go for the fly ball at the same time and run at each other? Because that's what legal, internal audit, and the CISO are going to do. And that's why I asked the question, who's really going to be driving the bus here? And who's going to set policy? Because security sucks at communicating risk in terms of risk and risk management. They do a great job at saying, hey, we're vulnerable to these threats. And that's my point. The other organizations are practiced at doing just that, being able to communicate risk to the rest of the management team and do something about it. So I don't know what happens here. I love the idea that the cyber program is going to be sharing information so that some of these organizations are going to have a better understanding of the threats that they face. But I don't know what that does internally to these companies.
Well, you notice, I mean, we haven't really talked about, the implications of the new Cyber Threat Sharing Center, the new executive order that Obama's released. I mean, there are a couple of things, but I think mostly these are not going to affect, many of you. The information sharing stuff will mostly be targeted at, kind of the retail financial, the guys that already have the ISACs. And it's explicitly stated in these things. It's going after these independent sharing and analysis organizations, I think is what they call them, and be able to share that with the civilian part of the government. There's a lot of trust issues, how much information gets passed. You're going to see a lot of hype in the press. People are like, "Oh my God, it's going to violate your privacy." Like, no, not necessarily. As a matter of fact, I think most of the information that needs to be shared is likely, not going to violate your privacy, unless, of course, the movie companies get involved and start trying to get, IP addresses for people sharing, the latest version of, I don't know what's the new 50 Shades of Grey or something along. That started as Twilight fan fiction. Did you know that? I read that in a movie review this weekend. Um, Fan fiction of a vampire movie that is now a sex thing with no vampires in it. I don't get it. Anyway, the other part is going to be national breach notification. I think that's a given. That's coming. I don't know how long that'll take. Even this messed up Congress can probably get that passed through. But for the most part, the rest of the stuff doesn't really change what's going on in most organizations. If you're in government, yeah. Maybe if you're in a few critical area infrastructures, yeah. I think the rest of us is just all about what we're talking about here, which is keeping your heads down. The vendors, I think you guys got to really watch your credibility. I think I don't know if you realize this, and I've been harping on this a lot over the past year or two when I'm working with clients. Like, all those FUD slides at the beginning of your decks. You understand? I was talking to a CISO in the past 2-3 weeks. He said he gets about 100 phone calls a week and 500 emails a week from sales reps in different security companies because the security market itself is so huge, and everybody's trying to get through the noise and get attention, but they're all saying the exact same thing: buy our product and you won't get hacked. And that's not going to work. So you really need to do a big refactor on your marketing, because I know a lot of people with a shorter history in this industry are seeing this as this massive new opportunity. And maybe it is, but your ability to communicate through that, I think, is going to be pretty important. And we're not generally seeing a lot of good. We're seeing some good, not a lot. So anyway, we've harped on this. We've probably gone over our time limit, but and this is beyond the big leagues at this point. It's almost in some aspects becoming background noise. I mean, I think social security system and for financials is going to have to change. Healthcare identifiers is going to be changing. I mean, all this is over the next 10 to 15 years, because you lose your social number, now you're done. A year of credit monitoring doesn't do anything for you at that point. Your entire rest of your life, you need to worry about that getting leaked. And it's just very, very, very messy. And a lot of the people talking about this don't have a ton of background. I listened to the Diane Rehm show last week on NPR. I was out for my long run and listened to it on the radio. And they had three experts there. It was two reporters, and one guy actually knew what he was talking about. He came out of a university, but even then wasn't in as deep as a lot of the people that we know kind of talking about these issues. And it's just going to get, I don't know, it's going to be very interesting. Great job security, though. I mean, as long as you don't screw up.
Today.
Yeah, today. All right. We good? Any other advice?
It's all mutually assured cyber destruction.
Just make it into a drinking game. That's what I
Yeah.
do. Anytime they say cyber, I just drink. So I'm just hammered 90% of my life. So, good.
It's a good excuse anyway.
I like to think about it. I mean, at various points in our careers, guys, we've all had to go into somebody, make a pitch, and ask for money, and that's pretty much what this is. And you got to treat it like this is your Shark Tank moment. So, watch a lot of that. Have that plan in place. Have that confidence when you go in that you know everything there, and don't squander it. And if you do, that's fine. Maybe you won't lose your job. Maybe you will, but you have a real opportunity to get the support you need to induce change and protect your work. And I think that's pretty cool as long as you take advantage of it.
Our CFO says no too much.
Yeah, you're the cheapskate. We were just talking about it. We'll keep our internal stuff. Yeah, we won't talk about that now. All right, guys. Well, have a great week, and that's it. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.